I don't know whether I'm going to give justice to this topic. To give justice to this topic, I feel we should go to activist more than academic. So, speaking activist makes more sense than academic. This is what I feel, purely personal observation, because so many things are missing in the country now. How where we started, how we began our republic, what is the journey, and where we have reached. So I need to just discuss. For this, I need to go back to ancient India, then how we moved to medieval, then how we entered modern, then the journey of India as a republic. So let me first begin with the conceptual understanding of constitutional morality. The idea of constitutional morality conveys how the constitution is elevated from merely being a document that captures a social contract to become the moral basis of ordering and governing the polity. So, constitutional morality is founded in the values which the Constitution preamble sets out. So, when we see the preamble of the Constitution, we come across all these values like secularism, equality, justice, equality. So, yeah, we need to ask, are we following it? Are our public institutions, people who have occupied these public institutions are following this constitutional morality? We need to directly ask. It is not that we are confronting with the people. We need to ask these questions. And I feel that it becomes our moral responsibility to discuss about how constitutional morality is missing in the society. So let me go back to the idea of inclusive society, how we began, because I feel I find some connection, linkage between constitutional morality and inclusive society, the idea of inclusive society. We began this journey in ancient India with our Buddhist experiment. With Buddhist experiment, we experience spiritual inclusiveness, social inclusiveness. Thus, with some 100 years of gap in between, we entered medieval India, and in this phase, we saw several protest movements against hierarchical society, some Vedic protest movements, and some against Vedic Brahmanism, and such moments we call as a bhakti moments, but in fact, some of them were not just bhakti moments. Okay. So we call as a bhakti moments, but actually some of them were not just bhakti moments. They were against Vedic Brahmanism. And we consider these protest movements as democratization of spirituality. So the spiritual, we believe that our spiritual sphere got democratized. But where this spiritual democracy ended, spiritual movements became institutionalized, and once these communities became institutionalized, then again we went back to the hierarchical society. The perfect example is the place from where I am. I don't want to say, but Karnataka is the one example, okay, where we saw this institutionalization of spirituality, and again we have gone back to this hierarchical society. Then finally, when we entered modern India, then we realized that just it is not with spirituality, spiritual ideas we need to, we can get liberated. We need political intervention and we need modern values also. So far, these discourses, modern socio-political discourses, we find in modern Indian political thinkers like Pandita Ramamani, Savitribai Phule, then Jyotiba Phule, Bhaskar Chandra, and Babasaheb Ambedkar. So, this almost more than 100 years, we saw several narratives like constitutional liberalism, Dalit Browsing, narratives, like cultural nationalism, indigenous socialism. But except some narratives, the overall, the quintessence of these narratives was uh, equality, egalitarianism. So, if we consider nationalist movement as a democratic movement, the democracy's religion was Buddhist values. Democracy's religion was spiritual, and egalitarian spiritualism or egalitarian values. So these egalitarian values were finally, like discussed in the Constituent Assembly, in which Ambedkar and many other scholars gave major importance. Then finally, uh, we became a republic, and yes, we thought that this republic is going to become very successful in experiment. Uh, why? Ambedkar had great expectation from this republic. The same Ambedkar who considered the society as Bahishkrit Bharat because of certain inherent problems, he thought that this Bahishkrit Bharat may become a Prabuddha Bharat. He had huge hopes about Indian Constitution and Indian Republic. So therein he makes a distinction between political democracy and social democracy. We have become political democracy with this constitution, with this the modern idea of republic. But whether we are going to become social democracy uh, or not, that was a question before. That was a doubt before Ambedkar. So to understand this, we need to look at what has happened to this republic in last 75 years. So here I just concentrate on 3-4 political. I categorize these period into different periods. Beginning of the republic, Nehru and period. Then other stage is Janta Parivar and JP movement. Then after introduction of new economic policy, then present political dispensation and social change. Yes, we know that in this contemporary times, present times, India is witnessing several challenges in the form of jingoistic nationalism, false development claims, and threats to the very process of deliberative democracy. And amidst such developments, the very idea of making India as an inclusive society and whatever, constitutional morality, what we are speaking, they are totally missing. So for this, we need to little bit understand what happened in the first 2 decades, then after 3-4 decades, then now. So independent India's political regime under the leadership of Jawaharlal Nehru. No doubt Jawaharlal Nehru was a visionary, and I would say he popularized the idea of democracy. Today we have politicians, they campaign for their parties. But here was the gentleman leader, he campaigned for the democracy. Okay. He introduced democracy to this country. That apart, there are certain lacunas also in his vision of economic development, and he had huge dreams about development and bigger projects, and he called dams as a modern temples of modern India and so many things. But question that needs to be answered is, as our temples, have become exclusive and have remained exclusive. These temples of modern India also became exclusive. They never became inclusive. Okay. They excluded some people and they included some people. So these things we need to understand. So then the question of constitutional morality, certain values which are there in the preamble, we didn't realize. We did not experience even during Nehru's period. Then after Nehru, as we moved, we started our journey as a government. Indira Gandhi became Prime Minister. We all criticized her role. And there were several stalwarts who criticized her role and protested against her political regime. Was introduced. Then there was suppression of political freedom and liberty. Then immediately after revocation of emergency, we all started praising our democracy, that re-emergence of democracy. This is how we look at the democratic, the political developments after independence. Emergency was introduced and it was revoked. Then elections were announced, and the announcement of elections was considered as again, as if something it is a second republic, something like that. So thus, we were also not sure, how to analyze. I'm not blaming anyone, and most of us, we were not sure about the political developments after independence. Then this Janata Parivar, Janata political party or Janata Parivar, which opposed emergency, no doubt it played a certain important role, and it gives some sections in the society, especially leaders coming from other backward classes. But we need to look at the side effect of this Janata Parivar politics also. In the name of social justice, it is only other backward classes became powerful. OBCs became powerful. Lalu Prasada from Bihar, Uttar Pradesh, then our own Devegowda, Vishnuda, they all became powerful. So this is the impact of the time. Then again, question liberal values, we felt these ideas were somewhere, we are not practicing and we are not realizing these ideas. Then let me briefly discuss about developments after new economic policy. Once this new economic policy was introduced, we had huge hopes about this new economic policy. Many people, economists, political scientists, we had huge hopes that India would overcome from several problems, socio-economic problems, and some people were also hoping that India would become developed country as we are today claiming that we are going to become or we have already become sure. So this was the hope 30 years back. Some people were hoping that India would become developed, and we continue with this claim for becoming developed as something. But in fact, from 1992 till this 2026, we haven't seen any professional economists, political economists have seen any indicator of India becoming developed or all these indicators, if you go by the indicators of economic development or a developed country. Then in this period of 1992 to 2026, we also have seen a kind of a state capitalism and spirituality. Crony capitalism is also well known, and this crony capitalism being supported by the spiritual institutions. So this linkage of the kind of the way they are functioning with each other, intending with each other, is very well narrated in the book written by Professor Meerananda. The title of that book is The God Market, How Globalization is Making India More Into. We are moving in the direction of new economic ideas. We are claiming also we are more democratic. But at the same time, we are in this process of India becoming more sectarian and more communal also. So these are the contradictions. Okay, these are the contradictions we are witnessing. Then we need to look at the present political dispensation, Hindutva political dispensation, and the idea of social change, the idea of constitutional morality, and Indian society. Here I need to discuss about Indian constitution and how present polity is relying on certain other sources for their political vision, for their political ideas. So now it is a tussle between Indian constitution and I would say that a Manusmriti. It's a fight between Manusmriti and Indian constitution. So when we look at this, the constitutional morality is completely missing. There is no respect for idea of secularism. There is no respect for egalitarian idealism. All these things. So if this continues, what is going to happen? If there is an absence of constitutional morality, then what is the way out? So for this, I need to. So why I am saying this because earlier we had huge hopes about judiciary as a guardian, okay, but now we are doubting judiciary also. There are observations, and we have witnessed even institutions, okay, public institutions once which were fairly neutral. Now these institutions are almost in contact with political narratives. This is what we have been observing, okay, regarding election commission, regarding judiciary, and many other political institutions. So, if this is missing, then we need to do something regarding this. So, then society has to become proactive to engage with such jingoistic narratives, such sectarian narratives. So here I need to I don't know whether my understanding regarding these texts is right or not. Whatever I have understood about these texts, because both these books make lot of sense. One is a book published in 2015, written by none other than a prominent political theorist, Michael Walzer, The Paradox of Liberation, Secular Revolutions and Religious Counter-Revolutions. Then other one, the recently published book, Christoph Jafferler's Modi's India, Hindu Nationalism and Rise of Ethnic Democracy. Why I need to discuss these two books? Because one book claims that the idea of liberation in India, we find lot of paradox. Earlier on, it began as a secular revolution, but this later on, secular revolution met with counter-revolution in the form of fundamentalism, communalism, sectarianism. For this reason given or reason discussed are the national leadership of the early decades of Republic didn't give much thought to religious ideas. Leadership negated critical engagement with this group. So that is why he says that there is a counter-revolution in the form of resurgence of counter-revolution, religious counter-revolution in the form of communalism, communal politics. So then, as I was telling, leadership negated the critical engagement with the groups and negotiation was required. But the question is, if at all negotiation was required, what negotiation we are supposed to have? So we already knew that the agenda of others, especially sectarian groups, the agenda of sectarian or religious groups was not so empowering, not so modernistic, and it was openly citing, quoting texts like Manusmriti and several others. So negotiation would have happened with this agenda. I think there was no requirement of negotiation at all. Thankfully, we did not negotiate. Without negotiation, we have entered this state. So imagine if we had negotiated with these elements, it could have become another, that Jewish nation state like Israel. So ethnocracy could have become. I mean, in place of a secular republic, secular democracy, we could have become a Hindu democracy. That's all. So this is what the other book is important. Bishop Jaffar's book, Modi's India, Hindu Nationalism and Rise of Ethnic Democracy. We have not remained secular democracy. Now it appears, and it has almost become like ethnic democracy. So earlier, at least some of our politicians had some guilt not to say, not to speak something. But now there is no guilt at all. Politicians are openly saying, openly making statements about certain communities, certain castes, and earlier we used to, at least for the sake of that something, we had some fear whether to quote Manusmriti or not. Now we are openly citing Manusmriti. We are openly citing certain things. So what does it? It indicates that there is something wrong with constitutional morality. There is something wrong with the health of India as a democracy. So I don't want to take much time. I would say that if at all we think we have negated, we have done really well. We have negated for the right reasons. And if at all we want to negotiate further, let us negotiate with what India stands for. India has a multiple idea. Okay. The way Bharat you understand, my understanding of Bharat is something different. Bharat of Northeast is something different. Bharat of South is something different. So let us negotiate with plurality of this country. Let us negotiate with multicultural idea of this society. Let us negotiate with the very existential pluralism of this country. So with this negotiation, we can again retain multicultural character, and we can bring back the foundational ideas of secular values, which are clearly stated in our preamble. So with this, I would like to. If there are any questions, please ask me, because it was, no doubt, I feel that very provocative, and no doubt, I personally feel that provocative, and yes, must have heard the sentiments. So, as Michael Walzer suggested, let us negotiate. Okay, let us not negotiate. Let us negotiate.